My name is Zani. I live off-grid in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to give you some RV living tips. So before we moved here, I had never lived in an RV, and it's definitely an interesting experience, and there are lots of things that you need to know about. So let's first start at the point where you go and look for RVs. Us personally, we never wanted to buy any RVs from a dealer because they add on a ridiculous amount of extra costs when you buy from them and not buying from an independent seller. But when you go to look at an RV that you're interested in buying, if it's with an independent seller, you want to make sure that you bring a generator with you. The reason why is they may not have it hooked up to power, but you need it hooked up to power to make sure that everything works, to make sure that the lights work, that if it has a slide out, the slide out will come out, to turn on the heat, to turn on the air conditioning. And you definitely want to test out every single system in the RV. The last thing you want to do is get it home and realize, oh my God, I got to spend this amount of money to fix this and that. So make sure that you bring a generator with you. You also want to make sure that the person will be able to hook it up to water. So you make sure that all the water is working in the kitchen and in the bathroom, because one of the biggest problems that we have had with our 3 RVs is the water pump. So always keep an extra water pump. We've had the water pump go out once or twice in every RV that we've had, and my husband always has to replace it. So make sure that you always keep an extra RV water pump on hand at all times. The second thing that you want to do when you go out to look at RVs is you want to check every single nook and cranny for water damage. These RVs definitely can get leaks, and leaks can be devastating. One of our RVs that we bought, the one that we completely renovated into a beautiful space, it had a leak that when we got it that we did not see. We fixed the leak, so we thought, and then we just realized 2 weeks ago that the leak was not completely fixed. So when we first got it, my husband had to tear out an entire wall and part of the ceiling and totally redo it because of the damage from the leak. So now that it started leaking again, the wall and the ceiling have to be redone a second time. And we're so upset about it because we were really thinking about selling that RV since we don't use it that much. But now in order to sell it, we have to fix it all over again. So like I said, living off grid is a constant learning experience. You may think that you're doing something well and you find out that you didn't do it right at all and you have to redo it. So you want to make sure that all the systems work. In any RV that you're looking at, make sure there's absolutely no signs of water damage. You want to get underneath it and look. You want to get on top of the roof and look at the roof, because a lot of times roofs have to be redone and resealed. You want to look in every cabinet and see if there are mouse droppings, because a constant problem in most RVs is rodents getting into it. So you want to make sure that there's no mice droppings. And, even if there are, you're probably just going to have to deal with it. I wouldn't say that it was a deal breaker for not getting the RV, but you want to know that you have to work on getting whatever rodents out, and you have to figure out if there are any holes anywhere that the mice are getting into, because they're getting in some way. So usually it's a teeny hole somewhere on the bottom of the RV, and what you do is you get this stuff called rodent block spray foam, and you seal up any possible entryways that the mice could be getting into. The next thing that I didn't even think of when we bought our first RV, we bought it in Georgia. The people who we bought it from hadn't registered it in 2 years. I didn't think anything of it. However, when we went to go register it, we had to pay the taxes, the ad valorem tax for the current year that we were in, plus the other 2 years that it wasn't registered. So we had to pay over $600 to have that RV registered. So if you go to buy an RV, they hand you the title, you look at the tag, you see it hasn't been registered in 2 years, you might want to talk to them about deducting some money, because you're probably going to be responsible for the taxes on that, depending on what state you're in. Every state is different. You just don't want to try to go get it registered and they give you some astronomical amount of money that you have to pay. So that's definitely something that you want to be prepared for. You want to make sure that there's a spare tire for the RV, just in case you're pulling it and one of the tires goes out. You want to make sure that you have jack stands. You may want to bring your own chalks, and those are the things that you put in front of or in between the wheels to make sure that the RV just doesn't roll off when it's parked. So you want to make sure you have that. Another thing that you definitely want to have before you bring your RV home is a stabilizer. A stabilizer is something that goes on the front of the RV hitch to your truck RV, your truck hitch. Because what's going to happen is if you don't have on that stabilizer and you're going down the road and a huge truck passes you, that RV is going to be swaying like that. And it is the scariest thing ever, because we didn't even know about the stabilizer when we got our first RV, and we had to stop on the way home to get a stabilizer because we weren't going to make it. Somebody was going to blow us off the road. You also want to be sure that you have the right weight truck for the RV that you're pulling. Okay, so had we known then what we know now, we would have never gotten the Ram 1500. We would have gotten a 2500, because even though it was only a 26-foot trailer, and even with the stabilizer on there, if you're in high winds, it's going to sway like this. If a truck comes by you, it's going to sway not as much as it would without the stabilizer, but it's still going to sway more because your truck may not be heavy enough. So you definitely want to assess the type and the length of RV you're getting compared to the truck that you have or that you are getting, because you want to be able to transport your RV and get it from one place to another. The RV that we're currently living in is a destination trailer, which means it's really tall. So basically our truck can't pull it. When we first went to go get that, we got about 5 miles and we were like, hell no, there's no way we can drive this thing 5 hours back home. So we ended up having to find a hotshot on Facebook, which is like a transportation person who had a dually truck who's able to transport it 6 hours from Roswell, New Mexico to here. So you always want to keep in mind the type and weight of truck you have compared to the trailer you have. There was a family who was going to come visit us this summer to do the work camp program, and they bought this huge fifth wheel. And they were planning on coming out here. They got on the road a little bit and they were like, ugh, we can't do this. They kind of jackknifed it, messed it up a little bit. But they realized that they weren't, even though they had a large truck, they weren't comfortable pulling such a large trailer across country with their truck. Because I can honestly say that traveling cross country with a trailer in tow is nerve-wracking. It gave me such anxiety, and I would never do it again. You know, maybe if we had a dually truck with the small trailer, I would do it again. But my God, it can be quite stressful. But you don't know until you know. You might get out there and it not be stressful at all. So one of the things we had to do on our trip out here, what I realized was we can't stop at one destination for a night and then keep going. I needed to stop someplace 2-3 days to get myself situated before we moved on to the next destination. That was the only thing that made me feel comfortable and not rushed and crazy. So RVs don't necessarily have the most storage, so you really have to maximize your organization. It's a small space. If you're living in it full time, you're going to have quite a bit of things that you're going to be having with you, so you want to make sure you maximize the space. Most of the RVs that I've seen, the closets, the cabinets, they don't have the best shelving, in terms of they may have a shelf that's this big, but most of your stuff is only this big. So one of the things that I would do first if I had to do it again was to put real shelving in each closet to match my needs. So most of the time, the bedroom closets are just these closets that are about this wide and are very long, right? With no shelves in there. It might have a little bar that you can hang something off of. So I tried all kinds of different ways to organize it. I got one of those hanging things that has the squares and you put the stuff in. My clothes were falling out all the time just because it's not meant for that, you know, for all of my shirts, pants, and everything to go in there. So recently I finally got my husband to cut some wood and put real shelving in there. And it has made such a difference in me organizing my clothes. I wish I would have done it from the beginning in the kitchen, in every single closet. We have a linen closet that I have those little cube boxes in to put stuff in, and I still haven't got my husband to put shelves in there, but once he puts shelves in there, that I will be able to store so much stuff in there without any wasted space. So one of the first things you definitely want to do is evaluate your closets, your cabinets, and put extra shelving in there, because it's going to make a huge difference. So also, most of the time, underneath the beds, you have storage. Underneath the seating in the kitchen, you have storage. So you want to make sure that you get containers that are going to work to store all your stuff, because when you're living in a little space, you really need to have everything organized or you will feel crazy. Believe me, you will feel crazy. Thankfully, we have a shed and we have other buildings where we can store some stuff. But of course, in our mudroom. But of course, you still want to utilize the storage space to the best of your ability in your RV. So you want to make sure you put shelves in. You have all kinds of different things to keep everything situated. I also had to start doing things differently from my husband's closet, because even though he put the shelves in, he'll pull something out and everything comes out and everything's messed up. So I actually ended up like army folding all his shirts so that everything's tucked, and like tucking in, folding and tucking all his pants so that when he pulls stuff out, everything just doesn't become a disarray and all over the place. So that has really helped us. When my son comes back from Atlanta, I'm going to have to do that with all his clothes too, because it's the same thing with him. I can never keep drawers, anything organized.